return to h8. He cannot go to h7 because the bishop. So the knight protects h8 and the bishop protects h7. So once again, the king is forced one step closer to that light square corner. So now, there we have it. We take off the g8 square total by the bishop. So the king is forced to move to e8. So now this is where we pay attention to our knight and bishop and king collaboration. Okay, so the knight just denied the king access to the 7th rank. So he's forced to either go to d8 or f8, but he can no longer go to the 7th rank thanks to our knight. Okay, so he chooses to go towards the light square corner. So our king, don't let the white king get too far from your king. So the black king moves over one, and the white king goes to the 7th rank. So it looks like he's on his way to freedom. Okay, but the knight is repositioned, taking off more squares. So now this king only can go to a white colored square or a diagonal, the A8H1 diagonal, which he chooses to do. Okay, now our bishop cannot allow this king to get to A6. We can't do it, or he will be out of our checkmating trap. So our bishop wisely takes the A6 F1 diagonal, as you can see. And the knight is protecting the other dark squares. So now this king is very, very close to being trapped and checkmated. So he decides to come back. Once he comes back, the bishop, the light square bishop goal is he has to maintain the A8 H1 diagonal as soon as possible. So there we have it. It's controlled. The king can no longer return back to the diagonal, and the knight has taken away the 6th rank. So this white king only has 2 squares, and that's back on the 8th rank, C8 or D8, whichever one, pick your poison. He chooses D8 in an attempt to run back towards the center, or I'm sorry, the dark square corner. So our king gets back into formation. White king runs back to the dark square corner, but thankfully our knight is taking off F8. So now we just check him. You must check the king right now. So there we have it. That's a check, and he cannot go to F8 because the knight protects it. So he's forced to move to D8. Now here's the trick. The trick is here. When you're opposition, whoever moves loses. So you don't want to move your king out of opposition. So you have to either move the bishop or the knight. You move the bishop. This is called a waiting move. You're still securing E8. You're forcing him to the left, to C8. Which he goes. And now we do the pattern all over again. This is the pattern all over again. Now the king has 2 options. B8 or D8. Now the king, once again, he's not going to voluntarily run to the corner and get checkmated. So he'll try to trick you. And if he does that, we have a check with the knight, forcing the king back to C8. Check. The king cannot go to E8 because of the bishop, and it cannot go to E7 because of the king, and it cannot go to C7 because of the king. So it's had only 1 square to go to, and that's C8. He's forced to go to C8. So now we slide our king over 1 because D8 is blocked. So now, once again, the king is forced to B8. And now we choose the opposition. And we're close. The king only has 2 moves at this point. He chooses the light square corner, trying to buy time. So we take out C8 as a permanent option. So now the white king literally only has 2 moves to go back and forth to. 2 squares to go back and forth to. Now we get our knight in position. We don't check him on A6 because there's no check. So that's a stalemate. So we do another waiting move because we want to check him. So once again, the bishop just move up one square. Now the check. And the bishop cannot return to C8. Remember, our bishop is there protecting it. So he's forced to go to the mating square, which is A8. And one more check and it's checkmate. So there we have it. The bishop slams to checkmate. The king cannot return to any other squares. They are all being threatened or protected by black. So there you have it. That's checkmate with the knight and bishop versus a lone king. Please rewind the video as much as possible if you need be. Thank you.